Okay.
I'm here with Mike Crenshaw, hip-hop artist, activist extraordinaire. We're here at the 6th Annual Portland Youth Summit. Mike just finished his parents' workshop. How'd you feel that went? What did y'all talk about today?
We talked about class consciousness. I named the workshop The Future is Up to Us after a friend's book. Nelson Perry wrote a book called The Future is Up to Us. And one of the things I was told in some of my life experience is that I need to study to be more effective in whatever I do. And I need to study more about class consciousness. And I also find that a lot of the information that I come across is so academic that it's hard for younger people to access it. So what I wanted to do was have a workshop that was for parents so that we could engage in a dialogue about A, how important the information is, but also brainstorm about how do we engage young people in a way that doesn't alienate them, because in my estimation, if young people aren't talking about what's on the table, then they're pretty like screwed, you know what I'm saying? So.
Would you describe class consciousness to perhaps those that aren't familiar with what that means?
I think that class consciousness is kind of, can be a subjective thing, in that a lot of people will have their own definition of what it is, but to me, it is an understanding of the social conditions that you exist in, and your place, your responsibility, your role in those social conditions, and the history that created those social conditions. So, social conditions are influenced by economic realities. They're influenced by political realities. They're influenced by military realities, okay? And the condition that we exist in today as a society and as a global civilization is very heavily influenced by all those different systems that I just mentioned in a way that affects our everyday life.
I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
So how did you, we've seen you at the Solidarity for Scott Olson, right? And then we saw you at Occupy the Dream, we were there talking to Fred Bryant, Keith Notice's father. And how did you find yourself and get involved with Occupy in the first place?
Well, I mentioned in my workshop that being somebody who's been a social justice activist most of my life, I've always looked to the liberation movements of the 60s, the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, and so on, for inspiration. But that with the Occupy movement, I feel that it is the first time in my lifetime that I can look at my contemporaries. I can look at the people alive in my generation for the same inspiration that I used to have to draw from my past. So this is our opportunity to own our own popular movement, a movement of the people, by the people, for the people, that I feel it's imperative we figure out a way to contribute and participate so that we can take responsibility and be accountable for conditions that we will live in. I think that right now there's been a lull for a lot of different reasons between a lot of the gains in consciousness that were made during the 60s into the early 70s, and that it's time for us to not be low. The lullaby has to end. We have to wake up and get back on it, and Occupy is definitely a platform for us to be able to do that.
How do you, how do you feel, I've been involved with Occupy since October, and over these months, I personally have seen a dramatic escalation in the negative response that we've received on a lot of our marches and events from the Portland Police Bureau. What do you think that we can do as a movement to respond positively and peacefully in the face of so much aggression, and try and turn that around to a positive? Because I don't know if you heard about the last couple of marches. Things really got out of hand.
Determination in the face of extermination Beat permeating, we overcome over drums. Peaceful in nature, though with deep-seated hatred. Fear and ignorance controls the ones holding guns. Aimed at my folks, and the pain that provokes is insanely explosive. The chains must be broken. The reins that I'm holding must keep taking me forward. So with faith, I'm told with destinations that come. You can try to stop me or block my path, but my side is not weak. You plot, we laugh. Try to kill, but strengthen me. Quickly heal my injuries. Reveals divinity, saps the zeal of enemies. My will presented me with the real ability to bend infinity to the frame of my path. And the name that I have fits the role that I play. Capture the spirit, only to give it away. So I speak to that because how do you respond positively, peacefully, in the face of violence that is negative and brutal, that is aimed at you? Well, there are lots of examples in history. We have Gandhi, we have Martin Luther King. I dare say that the people, for lack of a better term, the 99% respond peacefully 99% of the time. We're always responding peacefully. Well, what we need to question is violence exists on more than just the physical level. It exists on the psychological, economic, spiritual, emotional levels. We're being bombarded with different levels of violence all the time. And what I say is that maybe it is time to figure out, if not how to physically engage, because there comes a point at which engaging the power that is draining your energy and brutalizing you a line has to be drawn. Okay, and I'm not saying that we need to go out here and kill people, but in a self-defense mentality, in the interest of having a self-defense mentality and consciousness that moves beyond being reactionary into being proactive, to where we begin to dictate the conditions in terms of our reality, we might need to figure out how to leverage power. Because power concedes only the power. Power doesn't concede. You go out, you tell the police, I'm going to have a march at 11 o'clock, and you play by the rules, and you go down there at 11 o'clock and somebody gets hit over the head for being peaceful and exercising their right to free speech. The police didn't hold up there in the bar. Well, the police aren't going to hold up there. They might sometimes, but the very nature of who the police are dictates that they have to smash this movement. And until the police the question is, when are the police going to have a change in the heart as human beings? When are those individuals that make up the forces that occupy the streets, okay, to defend the rights of the elite and their ability to continue to function in a way that is ecologically violent and threatens the survival of all life on Earth? When are they going to have a change of heart? When are they going to have an awakening and do something differently? Because it's not my responsibility to change their mind. You know, I will say for my history, I have a history of violent experience of being brutalized by police, so I very clearly understand that their role is not to protect or serve me. So I have no expectation of them to do so. So I'm very careful about the way in which I engage with the police, because every time, 9 times out of 10, I've had experiences with police officers that are decent, but 9 times out of 10 when I interact with police, they treat me as if I'm a threat. Okay? Now, maybe I'm not a threat to them personally, and I know that, but because they identify with the system that they uphold, they identify me as a threat. So my life is in danger just for fucking breathing.
Same way Keaton's was in danger, simply for, changing lanes without daring to signal in broad daylight by Lloyd Center Mall.
Right.
I mean, it's shameful, truly. And in the last week, at the last anti-police brutality march, there was a 15-year-old kid tackled by 20 or more riot cops in the middle of the crosswalk, thrown to the ground, and arrested for a $26 jaywalking ticket.
Yeah.
Explain to me how that's even legal.
Explain to me well, it's illegal because the laws are created by the people who don't follow the law. they're above the law. Explain to me the amount of resources and time. You and I, when I go to work and work my legitimate job on paper and I get a paycheck, before I get my paycheck, there's been a certain amount of money taken out of my check that I didn't ask to be taken out, but it's taken out without my permission. So every hour that I might work, I'm paying for the overtime, the surveillance, the maintenance of the weaponry and the technology, the maintenance of the vehicles, the feeding and washing of the horses. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm paying for them to turn around and whip my ass when they want and when they feel like it. It's not right.
No, it's not what we're supposed to be about, and you think that we'd be better than all this by now, you know?
We're in an interesting situation. It's an election year coming up here. We've got Obama, who's basically won the hearts and minds of hopeful liberals to secure his office. I question whether or not he would, even if he wasn't as effective of a charismatic leader, if he would have made it in office anyway, because they needed a face that was more appealing to exercise their fascism and their global imperial interests, which Obama has done in some ways more so than his predecessor, than Bush.
Which is a lot to say.
Which is a lot to say when you got the National Defense, what is it, Authorization Act, you know, you're basically,
Chipmunk's still up there.
this is just like any other repressive regime. We like to compare it to things to Nazi Germany. Well, of course, you know, dissent is punishable. Dissent is punishable by death without without the Constitution. That doesn't matter. The Constitution didn't apply to people like myself historically, and it currently does not apply to people who own their dissent. Wherever you are in the world, there will be a drone deployed to blow up however many innocent people trying to get to whoever they say the target is. Yeah. You know, and we don't even know if there's a target. So that's where we're at now, thanks to Obama and the interests that he's represented. When I look at the choices of the candidates, no one's any better. So we're in some pretty harsh times.
A lot of bad choices.
These guys, their global empire doesn't have the means to sustain itself without all-out war on every front. So that's where we're going.
It's a scary thought, too.
It's a scary thought, but we've been watching the movies and playing the video games.
Eating our McDonald's.
Right, psychologically we're prepared. Spiritually, we're probably prepared. Some would say if we get metaphysical, we're born into this time for reasons. But what I'm concerned about is, are we going to be able to behaviorally figure out what we need to do and how we need to act? That's the question that remains to be answered, right? You know.
So, last question: if you could give one piece of advice to any of the Occupy supporters that are going to see this, going forward, what would you tell them? It's kind of a broad question, but.
Well, get down with people next to, figure out who you can depend on and who you can build practical alliances with in real life. I believe we're going to experience some times where our basic necessities are going to be scarce. Things like clean drinking water, underground railroad networks, things like safe houses and the ability for people to keep themselves safe and secure, and support networks that are going to feed people and take care of people, all the way up to independent healthcare, people who have skill sets that involve keeping people alive when they're sick and injured. Those are the type of things that we need to be thinking about while we're marching and while we're protesting and while we're going to work, Because those are the type of things, the infrastructure, when this thing totally collapses, because it no longer is able to sustain itself. Those are the type of things that we're going to need to understand.
Yeah.
So that we continue to live, those of us that are trying to stick around. And I believe that that day, that day has come and gone many places. And it's going to come back many places. And there's a lot of places that haven't felt that day in this current generation. But I believe we're going to, and I believe that we just need to be prepared. And out of that tumult, we're going to figure out who we need to follow, who we need to listen to. But until then, we all just have a lot of ideas, and hopefully we're going to be listening to ourselves a lot more than we're going to be following leaders,
And each other.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I'd like to see more of us listening to each other and see everybody always having to be right,
Right.
It's not always about that. I see so many great ideas and so many great minds, and gosh, I know that we're capable of such great things,
I don't have time to argue with people who want the same thing as me.
Yeah.
I don't right now. There may come a time when that's important. But I'm not interested in that. I just want to be about the work of getting things done. And if somebody has a good idea, I'm all about getting behind them and supporting that idea, or standing next to them, holding that idea. But a lot of the arguments over semantics, well, we want to call ourselves this, and we want to call ourselves that. Well, you can't, this, that, and the other.
It's a waste of energy.
I respect people who want to be there, but that's not.
I focus my attention where it's going to be more productive.
Indeed.
I feel you.
Yeah.
So where do we find you online?
MikeCrenshaw.com, MICCrenshaw.com. And, of course, I have Facebook and Twitter. And
So what's your Facebook?
what is it? Michael Crenshaw. And then there's also the fan page, which is Mike Crenshaw, M-I-C, not M-I-K-E. Okay, and the Twitter, I don't even use it that much. But I believe, how do you say, is it Mike Crenshaw? Would it be Mike Crenshaw at Twitter?
Would it be, just search for @Mike Crenshaw.
Right.
Go outside. Thank you for taking so much time with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
Peace.